Good morning, everybody. So first of all, I would like to thank the Institute and University for allowing me to come here to do some part of my research and for allowing me to use the facilities, and really I'm enjoying the stay here, and it's very nice and it's very productive. So I hope it's not the last time that I'm coming here, and hopefully we'll have some more researches together in the future. So I'm Carriage from Lithuania, Vytautas Magnus University, and I'm a PhD student whose area of research is network neutrality. I'm doing my PhD in social sciences, law, and the topic that I'm researching, network neutrality, is analyzed by me mainly from the legal point of view. However, this topic is really very broad and interdisciplinary. Therefore, today's my presentation will cover network neutrality from various points of views, not only from the legal, but also from the privacy perspective, social, economic, and other fields of science. So before I begin, let me show you very general video on network neutrality, which will, I think, make very nice introduction into this seminar, and it will allow us to be on the same page when I will be talking about network neutrality. So I will use New York Times video, which is viewed a lot on YouTube, and it will help us to understand the main principles of network neutrality.
Net neutrality. Its future is up for debate, and many say its demise could change your experience online. Here's how.
I have no patience for useless things.
When you download from the internet, it arrives in packets of data. Think of the packets as literal packages. Let's say you want to watch a Netflix movie which is 10 packages big. You order, Netflix ships, but first it has to go through a sorting facility. In this analogy, that's an internet service provider like Verizon or Comcast. Now, what net neutrality means is that all packages must be delivered at the same rate. If the rules change, a company like Netflix could pay extra to get on that first truck. If a company doesn't pay, they might be shut out of that first truck. They'll get delivered eventually, but if that climactic movie scene arrives late, you know what that means. And it's more than just movies. Media columnist David Carr with more.
Who gets to go fast and who gets to go slow? If my message comes to you really slowly, another person's message comes quickly and directly, who's going to be heard? That has implications for democracy, for commerce.
In the ongoing debate, the forces of Silicon Valley are on one side, with over 100 companies, including Google and Facebook, in support of net neutrality. On the other side are cable companies with powerful lobbying efforts in Washington.
It's time to get the job finished.
The figure to watch at the Federal Communications Commission is Chairman Tom Wheeler. He was a big Obama fundraiser, but also is a former lobbyist for the cable industry. Mr. Wheeler has vowed to forge ahead with introducing a new set of rules.
I believe that this process will put us on track to quickly get to legally enforceable open internet rules.
Silicon Valley's stance is clear. The cable company's position is also clear. But what about users? Net neutrality is usually a subject that elicits more glazed eyes than passion, but that could change.
Net neutrality is a super wonky thing. Nobody wants to look behind their computer or look behind their television and see what's really going on. But where people get interested, where they get actualized, is when that stuff stops working. Then they want to know who made this happen.
So I think it was a nice introduction into today's seminar, allowing us to understand the core of network neutrality debate. And during my presentation today, I will try to not to go so deep into the legal aspects or regulatory aspects, but just to present main issues and main topics of discussion that are related to the principle of network neutrality and its application. So let me begin, and part one, as we said, is presentation, and during part two, I will have some Q&A session and discussion. So what I will present today. So I will talk about definition of network neutrality, also present the common carriage doctrine and its applications to this principle. Then I will talk about network neutrality or network diversity, which is a new trend in this debate. Also, I will present some other kinds of network neutrality, such as device neutrality or search engine neutrality, which are also trending today, and also to talk about new possible regulatory regimes, as well as about completely new and fresh topic that is presentation of new FCC rules that will be introduced later this month. So let me begin. As the speaker on the video explained, definition of network neutrality is nowhere to be found. It's a topic that is broadly discussed, but actually nobody until the end understands where it could put this principle. Is it the technical? Is it from a competitive perspective? Maybe it's just for the users, or maybe it's just economic topic that must be discussed on this debate. So therefore, I use 4 dimensions, as a lot of scientists do in the field, and through those dimensions, I am trying to deconstruct the term network neutrality and to come out in my research with certain one definition of network neutrality. So the first and most spoken about dimension is, of course, consumerist dimension. So how users view the network neutrality. As Tim Wu, a scholar from the United States who first coined the term in 2003, says network neutrality is always about open access and broadband discriminations, being the 2 different ends to achieve the same goal. Open access is a definition that describes a situation where all the users, both from the internet users as citizens and content service providers that I will be later referring to as CSPs, from the other end have open access to the internet. They are freely to distribute the information, to share their data, ideas, other content. Therefore, the main core of network neutrality should be regarded in open access. The second is broadband discrimination, which lies, of course, on the other end of open access, and it defines a situation where internet service providers, to which I will be referring as ISPs during my presentation, they use their market power, they use their situation when they own the pipes and they own the last mile connections to the users in order to discriminate the content that is spread by those users. One of the reasons we are doing this is that they are vertically integrated companies. So we not only own the pipes through which the content is transferred, but also they are providing certain services, such as video streaming or search engines or voice over internet protocol. So they have some incentives to discriminate, and this hinders neutrality. The other definition which is broadly used is used by scholar Mr. Marsden, who is one of the most prominent researchers in the field, and he structures the network neutrality into 2 different parts. Again, it's positive and negative, or forward-facing and backward-facing discrimination. Positive or forward-facing discrimination means that users can pay more money for better services. That's a regular situation, and almost nobody discusses that it won't be allowed. So if I want a better service, if I want better speed, I am allowed to pay more for this. On the other hand, as almost everybody agrees, is negative discrimination, which is prohibits to pay same for less. That is, if one user has the same connection to the internet as the other, they should receive the similar services at within the similar level of bandwidth, speed, with similar level of jitter, latency, and other technological factors. So this negative or backward-facing discrimination is the one that is mostly discussed. And from the consumerist dimension, it's the one that harms the internet most. From the competitive dimension, network neutrality can be deconstructed as non-discriminational and anti-monopolic measures that are applied to the network in order to stop ISPs that are in certain position, as I mentioned earlier, to regulate the to interfere within the market and to provide certain rules that would not allow to use this position for ISPs to hinder the dissemination of content. So in this dimension is broadly associated with national regulating authorities or governmental institutions that are in position to interfere most broadly through antitrust regulation in order to prohibit the technologies or other measures that ISPs tend to use in order to manage network. This situation, of course, has a lot of issues because everybody agrees there has to be reasonable network management. Management that allows internet to operate efficiently, allows to deal with the congestions that occur from time to time, but of course, where is this clear red line between reasonable network management and already commercial interest of ISPs? It's mainly unclear. And of course, vertical separation that I have mentioned plays a huge part in this debate because big ISPs tend to use their market power to ensure that where other vertical integrated companies would have better access to the users. They would have better market position to provide services, sell the products, and therefore achieve more economic benefits. The second dimension that I want to dwell a little bit in is a technological dimension. As we all know, internet from the beginning was built as a network based on end-to-end principle. This means that one user on one end transferred information to the other user through a network without any intrusion by those internet service providers, as it was shown in the video, that usually were as a black box, that nobody cared what takes place inside. Everybody knew that there is a best effort principle. That means if I send a data package, it will be sent through using best efforts through the network to the user on the other end. However, new technologies, usage of the internet for video streaming, that is highly jitter and latency sensitive applications that need very good connections and very good quality of network. The end-to-end principle gave way to trust-to-trust principle. That means internet service providers started to interfere into traffic in order to allow those new technologies to be used on networks. And so the simple networks or dumb networks, and I will be referring to them later, gave way to new generation networks or NGNs that has certain fast lanes for applications like voice over internet protocol or video streaming. They provide accessibility for broader scope of users, and they allow introduction of new and better applications. Of course, again, we see the need for establishment of clear and sound rules how this technology can be managed, because on one end we have reasonable network management that I was referring earlier that is necessary in order to allow these new networks to operate and allow users to use those networks in the best way possible. But on the other hand, we have situation where if there is no regulation imposed on internet service providers or any other providers that are operating in the area, then some issues can arise again involving discrimination of the users. And the last dimension where network neutrality debate takes place is economic dimension. One of the ideas of the internet was that it provided place for innovation without permission. Innovation without permission is a definition used to describe situation where market entry for the content service providers, for the providers of different applications, is almost free. That means if I come up with certain very good idea, I can use internet to spread this idea, to sell this service, and to have some economic benefit. That's how Facebook started, that's how YouTube started. But of course, this innovation cannot come without some investments made to the core network. So we can have free market entry at the end of the networks, but somebody has to heavily invest in the backbone network, that is the network who transfers the data from one side of the world to the other in order to keep this thing running. So of course, it's not reasonable to have a lot of backbones networks. That is where natural monopoly comes in. It means that certain ISPs are natural monopolies, as are gas, electric, or water supply companies. It's not reasonable to build another network. So again, we have to have certain regulation, and again, discussion, as I will present later, arises on the economic side of network neutrality. Where does the innovations occur, and how can we repay the investments of big companies that are managing the backbone network? All those questions are circling around network neutrality, and as you can see, it's really a very broad and interdisciplinary issue that is not covered so broadly in scientific literature as it should be, because it's really at the core of a debate how we will be using internet and what will internet be in the upcoming years. So I don't want to go into big and long discussions from the legal point of view, so I will just skip some, so I will go faster through some slides that are more related to the legal aspect. But just want to mention one very important principle of common carriage that is, again, after this new Federal Communication Commission proposals is in the air, it's common carriage. Common carriage principle usually is applied to those natural monopolies, as I was talking about earlier, as water supply companies or electric companies, that have to serve all customers that want their services. They have some public interest to serve those services non-stop, as electricity, for example. They are natural monopolies because of their situation, and they do not hinder that transmission. That means they transfer some utility without interfering inside. A lot of discussion is about applying this common carriage doctrine to internet service providers. On one hand, internet firstly originated as an inside network of universities, but was mostly expanded mostly because of the usage of telecoms. That's DSL connections took place through regular telephone lines. Therefore, certain initial regulations that regarded Internet as public utility made sense. But today, when we have Internet broadband services, and we have those new generation networks, and we have certain quality of service levels applied to different applications, it's not easy to say that a common carriage, which is basically a very old idea dating back to Roman times when there was common carriage principle applied to roads that would be used by all and any transport means. So nobody can say for sure that whether we can apply this common carriage doctrine to network neutrality, to internet providers, and whether common carriage is a good way to establish network neutrality. Because from one point of view, common carriage can help regulate the industry, can help establish certain rules, but on the other hand, again, it's not real common carriage, and a lot of discussion is whether those rules would be feasible and would they allow to be the internet the same as it is now? Would be allowed to cherish, to be a place for free expression, for innovations, for dissemination of ideas and communication. So those issues are still to be discussed. And as I said previously, we have now a network of trust to trust. That means we trust our internet service provider that he will deliver our data unhindered and that he will not censor anything. Therefore, certain questions in network neutrality are connected to the ISP liability. Who is liable for the censorship? May internet service provider intervene into our data and select the data which can be transferred and ban some data packages that, according to him, will be not transferred? Who will say that whether one software is good to use online and the other is malicious and is not possible to apply? Therefore, we have to have very sound and clear rules, but still, this discussion is just starts to get its pace. The new approach in network neutrality debate was initiated by Christopher Yu, law professor from United States, that states that common carriage may be replaced by network diversity principle. So Christopher Yu is usually anti-network neutrality, and he opposes the ideas to have network neutrality regimes imposed on internet industry. And his main arguments for this is that we have to apply not network neutrality, but network diversity. That is, in order to see to allow people to use internet as efficiently as it possible, he states we need to have diverse internet. We have to have services that are used by web and emails as initial internet was used for, but we have to use different networks for video. That is really very sensitive applications. Maybe we can use different networks for voice telephony, and even maybe we can have different networks for secure connections. And it does not harm internet, according to him, because end-to-end, or this initial network, is a dumb network. It does not, it didn't, there were no big innovations throughout the years in the internet infrastructure itself. And we need to allow those innovations, not only at the end, as I was referring to, like various software or social networking that take place, but we also have to allow this innovation into the core of internet. That means we have to have not only big highway for any transport means to go, but we have to have 3 or 4 different highways, and different data packages will choose through which highway we can go. Of course, this discussion again leads to the other side, from the open access to discrimination, because in a situation where we don't have network neutrality rules, certain walled gardens, as it's referred to, can arise. Therefore, we can have certain internet service provider who provides all the services to certain user, and therefore he's in position to discriminate other competitors or other software or other content providers. For example, if we have internet service provider who is related to Google, it will impose on user the usage of Google as a dominant search engine, and it will not allow any other search engines to be in his network because it's not profitable. Or maybe he will reduce the speed of data transferring through other search engines, or the accessibility of those other competitors. So he can build this nice garden for himself and for his users, and maybe most of the users will be happy with it because they will have basic services at their hands. For example, in the United States, we have this content delivery networks. Sorry, those content delivery markets mean that networks mean that if a user in New York wants to access certain videos uploaded on Facebook by his friend in the other side of the continent in California, he does not have to wait for data packets to arrive through all the United States. Those content delivery networks, they cache certain information closer to the user, and therefore the loading speed are increased 10, 100 times. On one hand, again, users are very happy with it, but on the other hand, other service providers or content providers are discriminated because different social networks, not so popular, not as popular as Facebook, may experience higher jitter and latency and lower loading speeds. Therefore, users will tend to shift to use those networks that are supported. So those walled gardens, again, pose threat to internet and to its operation. And of course, if we have this walled garden, we have this nice structure built by certain ISP with vertically integrated companies, market entry cost issue arises. This means that for the other players to go into this market and try to compete on a par with existing players becomes very hard. It will be the situation where there will be no new Facebooks, no new YouTubes, no new applications innovated on the network, because market entry barrier will be too high for those startups to operate. But again, it's just a discussion, and today's my aim is not to give certain answers on net neutrality. It's just to raise certain awareness of the issue and have a good discussion on the topic. As I was mentioning at the beginning, there are also other neutralities that are trending today. Not only network neutrality as a whole, but some neutralities as part of this network neutrality debate, or even as a separate neutralities. For example, device neutrality. We have everybody uses different devices to access the internet, because internet without devices that can access it, it's nothing. So we have laptops, we have tablets, we have smartphones, we have different kinds of PCs connected, and at some point there is a neutrality issues arising whether certain devices can access certain services. Again, providing USA example, Google TV, initiative by Google, was at certain point blocked from providing Hulu and Netflix services because their competitor, Comcast, he thought that it will harm his business, and only after certain costly and long court litigations, it was allowed that this content was forced to be played on Google television set. The same with Apple. Not all applications are allowed on Apple's iStore, and not all applications you can use with your iPhone. Again, who is to regulate this? There's a private company who can do whatever it thinks to do. So maybe even Apple can subsidize the usage of the devices, can give devices for free, or it can reduce the price in order to connect the user, to bundle the user to their network, and again the issue of walled gardens arises. This point is clearly seen in other neutrality approach, social network. We have Facebook, the dominant social network right now, that has more than 1.3 billion users and still rising. Every day it connects more than 100,000 new users. So from one point of view, it's private property, and it becomes so popular because of this new innovative idea, and of course this monopolist can use its power to make business from this. But from the other hand, on the other hand, there are users who make this service is so popular. And for example, we have this Zynga example. Zynga, very popular platform for games. Today they announced their quarterly results, and everybody say that it's going down and it will be bankrupted or will be bought by other company. But 2 years ago it was shining star of internet. What happened? Facebook saw it as a competitor and put some price tags on the provision of certain services to Zynga, and they had to give up at first 10%, then 20%, and finally 40% of the profits back to Facebook. And we couldn't do anything because their main platform for dissemination of application was Facebook. So was it good practice from Facebook? Yeah. From one point of view, you can say it's a private company. It invested a lot in the network, and now we can gain from it. But from the other hand, other point of view, it is the users who make Facebook popular. So maybe some users wanted to use Zynga. Maybe we wanted to have more similar games as Farmville or Poker. But now it's impossible because Zynga was forced to go out of this market. So here we have certain economic discussion that can take place, and I don't know if you are aware of this Schumpeterian, or how can this pronounced situation. There is a scholar, Schumpeter, who was dealing with economic issues of natural monopolies. Of course, he had broader economic insights, but that for our issue, it matters regarding natural monopolies. So there is a proposition that innovation is in certain markets is fostered by natural monopolies. For example, Bell, the company which made the telephone so popular in the United States and almost around the world, they innovated so heavily that they could make this network spread. So on one hand, we have monopolies that are very innovative and can help the market to grow. But on the other hand, there is a different proposition by other economists that say that innovation does not occur in the core, in the monopolies, but occur at the end, where a lot of different competing ideas compete for their place under the sun, and therefore the biggest economic benefits arises not where the monopoly situation is, but where is a competitive situation. So again, it's an open discussion, and social network neutrality is a very good example for it. Search engine neutrality. A lot of discussion is about how Google, what are the algorithms used by Google, how it allocates the search results, maybe you can pay some money for Google to be more visible. Of course, there are some advertised search results that you see that the companies are paying money, but there are those neutral results where you don't know why. If I put best restaurant in Barcelona, we will put this restaurant on top, no, not the other one. And there are a lot of issues related to this. There's a lot of discussion takes place whether really user search engines give user enough autonomy, because there are a lot of issues that make search engine popular. So now, of course, we have Google at the core, as the biggest provider of search services, and but maybe it's not the best. Of course, for the other engine to go into the market is very hard, and Google can use its to use its position to grow income and get additional benefit. But of course, we have to ensure that the search is equal, objective, not biased, relevant, and transparent, and there is no manipulation from the result. So again, a lot of discussion takes place online and between the scholars whether there is a need to regulate Google as a search engine in order to make internet more efficient. My next slide is about different regulatory regimes. Again, it's more from the legal perspective, so I will try to cover it as a general topic. Usually there are three different regimes that can be regarded as a background for network neutrality. So on one hand, we have strict network neutrality, which says that innovation occurs at the edges, not at the core, that we have to have competitive, open access to internet. We have to regulate market power of internet service providers and content service providers. Therefore, network has to be really neutral. We have to retain end-to-end principle, best efforts principle. The network should be more dumb than innovative. We must have this one big highway for all the data, and the data has to compete for the attention of users and not backwards. So you cannot push someone faster than others in order to make access for users easier. So this is strict network neutrality. Status quo situation, it's referred to as a current situation where network is not neutral now. We have those content delivery networks. We have some certain quality of service networks. We have certain agreements between companies, as I will show later, that provide faster lanes to certain services. So internet is not neutral now, but it works. And maybe we can have this situation for a longer time. And at the other end, we have this non-neutral regime. That means the proposition that I said, network diversity. We can have 4 different highways or 10 different highways for different data. We can have different levels of quality of services. Even users themselves can establish certain regime they want to use. Maybe I want to buy just a basic web service, or I want to buy service for which I will use to watch video streaming or do Skyping teleconferences. But again, if you put everything on user for him to choose, 90% of users will not choose, and they will get the one bundle package that will be mostly promoted by ISP, because those, as I call them, super users, the users who are aware of all the technological details, of all the aspects of internet, they are not dominant in the market. 90% of users are just regular users who buy the package and use it as it is provided without any modification inside. And by finishing my presentation, I would like just briefly go through the most fresh topic today. It's new rules that are proposed by Federal Communication Commission and by the chairman of the commission that you have seen on the video. And to be very short, those rules have, those propositions consist of those 4 different aspects. So first, there is a proposition to classify internet, broadband, wireless internet, mobile internet, all the kinds of internet as common carriage. That means as a public utility that can be heavily regulated. There will be introduction of new rules that will allow no blocking, no throttling, no paid prioritization. They, as a Federal Communication Commission, will present reasonable network management practices, definitions of transparency, and we will present certain very broad internet conduct standard for internet service providers. But they will not regulate the tariffs. It's one thing that very stands out from the common carriage. They will not go into regulation of the tariffs, but they will overlook the situation, and we will have to see whether all the practices that are taken by ISPs are commercially reasonable practices. And as a main critic for this proposal, I can say that most stakeholders and most parties that are involved, they say that it's just a populistic act because those rules will be challenged at courts. It will, again, most probably will be struck down as it was previously. And again, there is a lot of discussion going on between internet service providers as access providers and content service providers as providers of application and services. But where are the users? Where is their interest represented in all this situation? Because users are at the core of internet, not otherwise. So by this I conclude my part of presentation.